Tracking our first red flag warning of the year, I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods. Now in the Central Valley, we're going to see this red flag warning extend all the way from the very northern end near Redding southward towards Bakersfield. Really dry conditions starting to build throughout much of the lower elevation. So this starts up in the capital region on Saturday, takes us through Monday. That includes our weekend with gusts 35 to 45 miles per hour and the potential for rapid fire spread. Our headlines for our weather impact alert, same timeline there, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the Impact Valley fire risk with those strong gusts and low humidity. So need to take fire safety precautions. Make sure your evacuation plan is ready to go, including a go bag, and sign up for your county alerts. Know when to go because you don't want to be caught behind the scenes there when things are getting really dicey and emergency personnel are trying to evacuate people and put out fires. Colusa County, this is a look at our overview here, and you can see how some of the hills are starting to brown out. We still have a tinge of greenness, but that's at mostly the foothills and the higher elevations. The lower elevations really starting to brown out right now as we head into our drier season and the recent little bump up in temperatures. And that is playing out as well with our significant fire potential, mainly on Sunday with moderately dry conditions stretching right through the valley. A little less in the northern San Joaquin Valley. There's some pockets of still some green pastures, but overall, things are really browning up quite quickly here as we head into the middle of May. Our fire potential with our energy release component, our average is generally starting to climb into the neutral range before we really get into those widespread dry fuels. But we're seeing some pockets. So again, we're starting to see some areas bumping up into the neutral and eventually into the dry fuels range by the time we get into the weekend, certainly with the low humidity and some of the recent heat that we've had. As far as the wildland fire potential, as I mentioned, we're still pretty green in the foothills and the Sierra, but that too will start to shift. Straight down the agricultural areas where we're seeing some of the watering taking place, that will obviously tamp down some of the extreme fire behavior and potential, but we're still seeing that at least the low humidity and the gusty winds elevate that fire danger and the red flag warning in effect for the first time this year. Our fire season is slower than what we saw last year, but keep in mind we had the Palisades and Eaton fires, so that got us off to a big and fast start. Things started to quiet down throughout the year. We had less than 10 red flag warnings issued last year for the Sacramento office. Now, in terms of our 5-year average, we're a little bit behind that pace, but more in line with what we typically see over a 5-year average to start us off for this fire year. A lot more to come, though, obviously, as we're just in the beginning phases of our peak part of the season. We saw some good drought mitigation here coming through for the beginning of our water year with some big atmospheric rivers. Things are starting to dry up, though, and it is expected to either start to develop with drought throughout much of the northern part of the state and the central and southern part of the Sierra, and persisting for much of the northeast corner there. So things are starting to shift as we head throughout July for our drought outlook. Fire outlook pretty much comes in line with that. Mainly in Northern California, above average wildland fire potential, and then it stays in Northern California through August. That being said, it's not that we won't get any fires in Southern California. It's just that things have really started to shift from what we saw last year at this time with growing dryness through the southern part of the state. Our weekend winds are going to be the main player for us. It's not so much about the heat. It is really wind driven for this event as our low pressure system settles into the Great Basin in opposition of that high pressure ridge sitting off the coast. So our winds start to pick up late Friday through Saturday, but the biggest wind will hit us on Sunday. The biggest area that we're going to be focused on is going to be the I-5 corridor in the Sacramento Valley, but we still have the potential for some rapid fire spread throughout much of the San Joaquin Valley as well. Interesting what happens here on Sunday. We start to get more of those offshore winds, so that's a combination then that we're going to be tracking Sunday late day and through Monday, where we get the north winds in the valley, northeast offshore winds in the Sierra, and those two very, very dry. We have a lake wind advisory in effect for Lake Tahoe Tahoe Sunday at 5 p.m. through Monday morning. Wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour. Beyond the fire risk and rapid spread is going to be the wave heights on the lake. We could be seeing those at 3 feet. So that's dangerous for smaller boats and kayaks, paddle boards, things of that nature. We're starting to get into that time frame where we're almost into Memorial Day weekend, and our recreation really starts to pick up in the Tahoe Basin for that. Our departure from normal, as I mentioned, we're actually going to get cooler over the weekend. It's not a heat-driven event. This is mostly a wind and low relative humidity event for a red flag warning. As that low pressure system to the north of us starts to scoot our way, it is going to bring us a cooler air mass. But the rainy season is well in the rear view mirror. In May, we only get about 3/4 of an inch of rain. Our biggest water months are behind us, and so now we are going really full speed ahead into the dry part of the year. So fire defense is first and foremost top of mind right now. You needed to get this done early in the season, because now when we start to get into these dry and warming weather events, as well as gusty winds, it can be problematic to get that fire defense going. Grass, shrubs, and trees can be ladders to spread fires. If you have something starting at the lower part and then it doesn't have that vertical clearance, it can quickly just continue to catch fire, and then it jumps from tree to tree, rapidly spreading. But if you get that vertical clearance done, then if you have something lower to the ground that catches on fire, it's a little more difficult for things to rapidly spread. Not to say that they can't, but certainly helps for firefighters to get the upper hand on those flames before they get out of control. Fire weather alerts, just because we're now starting to enter that part of the year where these will become more of what we're alerting for instead of, say, winter storm warnings and things like that. Just a refresher here. Fire weather watch is issued several days before fire weather develops, and that's what we had the past couple of days. Now the National Weather Service putting us in a red flag warning again for the first time this year. So that means that conditions are either imminent or occurring. We'll see that in place until we start to see those winds go down and the humidity come up. Now, sometimes they have to issue a particularly dangerous situation red flag warning. That's when we could see extreme fire behavior, and we've had those issued before in California. Certainly something to watch for our peak fire season. Preventing a spark. These can be some easy things we can do right now outside of, getting that defensible space. We don't want to do that when the winds are gusty, the low humidity. So here's some things that we can do for the weekend. Keep vehicles off of dry grass. Watch for dragging vehicle parts. You want to mow lawns, not dry grass or weeds. So if it's looking like your lawn is a little parched, just hold off until we get to next week, and it will be safer to do some of the yard work. And properly dispose of cigarettes and matches. Don't want to throw anything into the side where we're starting to see some of the growing dryness in much of the valley. The go bag, I mentioned this, have that go bag ready. Here are 5 P's, just an easy way to remember this, and the order of importance. First, we're going to talk about people. 1 bag per person, and that will be packed with clothes and snacks. Generally, they say for 3 days, but honestly, just do what you can, at least to get everybody one of those go bags. Next, let's talk about pets. You want a bag with pet food, toys, necessities, and have carriers ready. If there's a big evacuation that has to happen, you want to make sure that you have the carrier, because many of those evacuation centers will require pets to be in carriers. You don't want to go driving around trying to find one that allows pets, because those tend to fill up really quickly. So you want to have your options open, right? All right, papers, important documents like identification, insurance, Social Security, and maps, etc. Maps, I will just point out one thing with this is sometimes our GPS will go down if it's a huge wildland fire and you're trying to get to that evacuation route. The visibility may be very poor. It could be at night, or it's just so much smoke it's hard to see. Some of those roads might be closed as well, so you want to make sure that you have a paper copy of that evacuation route. It is difficult to navigate. Back to kind of old school way of doing things. And then prescriptions, that is going to be our 4th. Medicines and medical devices, want to make sure those are ready to go. Finally, photos, sentimental things that can't be replaced. So important things to get ready right now. Low pressure system, that's the setup moving into the Great Basin. Behind it, high pressure ridge builds in, and that gets us right back to a warmer weather pattern. And this is in really the final days of getting ready for Memorial Day weekend. We're just 10 days away from Memorial Day weekend, the unofficial start to summer. 35 from Juneteenth, 37 until Father's Day, and then the summer solstice. 50 days away from the 4th of July. So this is really the time of year that we start to prepare for our peak wildfire season. Now, over the Memorial holiday weekend, we have a weather system that potentially is going to brush our way, dropping our temperatures to well below average conditions. That's something that we're going to be watching because we know so many people like to go out boating and swimming and picnicking, all those things that just really highlight the fun things that we can do for recreation in the valley and the foothills for Memorial Day. Highs in the 60s for the Sierra, kicking off our weekend. 60s and 70s for much of the foothills. Across the coast, we're in the 60s. 80s as we head inland, just a little knockoff of those temperatures from what we've been seeing the past couple of days. And then we drop even more by the time we get to our Sunday and Monday forecast. Our highs will drop to the 50s for the Tahoe Basin on Sunday. But again, that's when we get those bigger winds coming into the Tahoe region on Sunday through early Monday. 70s for the foothills, close to 70 for the Bay Area. And then look at, you're starting to see some indications. Oh yeah, we're getting right back to that heat. Mid-90s potentially by next Wednesday. 80s though over this weekend with that weather impact alert due to the high fire danger and our red flag warning. And then at the end of next week, we start to see that cooling event that will take us right through the Memorial holiday weekend.